So let me tell you why you should care. Health is your wealth. All of us at young age, we sacrifice our health to get wealth. And as we get older, we sacrifice every penny we have just to get our health back.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today I'm joined by Naveen Jain, founder and CEO of Viome. In this episode, we discuss Viome's mission to prevent and reverse chronic disease by decoding the human body. Plus, we talk about the future of preventative health, making medicine more consumer-driven, and using AI to deliver truly personalized care. Let's get into it. The Fitt Insider Podcast is presented by EGYM. EGYM's smart fitness ecosystem is transforming healthcare through exercise, combining strength equipment with AI-powered software and corporate wellness platform WellPass. It's leading the shift to proactive preventative health. Learn more about EGYM's intelligent workout solutions at egym.com. Hi, Naveen. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Well, first of all, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I am as well. There's a lot that we want to get to, so we will get right into it. Why don't you start by just introducing yourself? Tell us about Viome to set the stage, and then we'll dive in.
My name is Naveen Jain. I'm an entrepreneur, and I started Viome 8 years ago with one simple mission. What if? What if we can actually understand what changes in the human biology? What is changing inside our body that causes us to develop these chronic diseases, whether they call them diabetes or depression or Alzheimer or heart disease or cancer, God forbid. These are all the diseases in our body that happen because they're fundamentally something is changing in our body. And we set out to understand what is it that happens when people develop these diseases. And the thing that, Joe, I found fascinating is that unlike infectious diseases, you don't wake up someday and say, honey, I was out drinking last night with the boys. I think I might have caught diabetes, right? You don't catch diabetes, right? So these are the diseases that happen, develop over a period of time. That means we should be able to understand the changes that are happening in the body that causing these changes and why they are actually manifesting themselves in these diseases. And that's what we set out to solve. And as we go along, I'll give you the journey in terms of what is it that we did, how did we think about it differently, and how we went out to solve this problem. So let me, maybe I can step back and just talk to you and talk to everyone who is giving us their time. And I want to thank you for listening to this episode because you're giving us the most valuable thing you have, which is your time. So I want to make sure that I give you the value for your time. And the first thing is anytime you're listening and saying, why should I care? So let me tell you why you should care. First of all, health is your wealth. All of us at young age, we sacrifice our health to get wealth. And as we get older, we sacrifice every penny we have just to get our health back, right? So anytime you're starting in any company, in any industry, ask yourself 3 questions. Why this? Why now? Why me? Why this is very simple exercise. Ask yourself that says, God forbid, I am actually successful in solving the problem that I set out to solve. Would it help 1 billion people live a better life? And it's not because you're philanthropic. The reason you ask that is because you're capitalist. And the reason for that is anytime you can build any product, any service that can help 1 billion people live a better life, you can create $100 billion company. But you never wake up in the morning and say, what should I do to create $100 billion company? Making money is simply a byproduct of doing things that improve other people's life. In other words, making money is like having an orgasm. If you focus on it, you're never going to get it. You just have to enjoy the process, right? And that's what the entrepreneurship is all about. Learning to enjoy the process and not focusing on the end goal of making money. The second part is you, as an entrepreneur, don't get caught up on how you're going to do something. Your job is to focus on saying, to solve the big problem that you set out to solve, what are the subset of problems that you have to solve and not how you're going to do that. Entrepreneurs fail because then they start to say how they're going to do that. So every expert, the reason they fail to become an entrepreneur is because they believe if they don't know how to do something, it can't be done. And that's the benefit of actually being a non expert, someone who is looking at this world differently. They simply focus on what needs to be solved, and then they bring in the team to help them solve that problem, and then challenge the team when they start to think like an expert that it can't be done. And your job is to say, tell me why it can't be done. Tell me why this won't work. And you constantly come up with a new set of ideas and let that experts tell you why it won't work. And more often than not, I have heard this time and time again. First thing you hear is, this will never work. Why? I've done this before, it never works. Well, that was 10 years ago. The world had changed. Tell me why this will not work. And as they start to explain, they start thinking, what a goddamn moron. I cannot believe he's even asking me that why this won't work. And halfway through, they'll say, well, I don't think it's going to work, but I will try. And I can tell you that if you keep pushing them, they may try and come back and say, I can't believe it actually works, right? And that's the part of being in that non-expert who looks at the problem from the first principles perspective. And the first principles perspective that simply says, are we breaking the known laws of physics? And if you're not, then it should just work, right? And that's how you really look at the thing and say, why this would not work? The third part really is the most important part. Actually, let me go to the second. In terms of the part that's saying why now. So the thing is, you have to ask yourself what had changed in the last several years, but more importantly, what do you expect to change in the next 3 to 5 years that will help you solve this problem at scale in 3 to 5 years? But this problem could not have been solved 5 years ago. That means you're actually intercepting tomorrow's technology to solve tomorrow's problem, not really using yesterday's technology to solve tomorrow's problem. The third part of the thing, why me, is the most important thing you ask yourself, which is, what questions are you asking that are different from what everyone else in the industry is asking? Because the questions you ask are the problem you solve. And I think, Joe, as you and I were chatting earlier, it is all about your perspective of looking at that problem. So when you go to an expert and saying, look, what if someday there are 20 billion people on planet Earth? How are we going to actually feed these people? How are we going to solve that world hunger problem? And every expert will tell you that means grow more food. You have to figure out how to reduce the wastage during transportation because there's so much food gets wasted. But no one will ever ask the question, why do we eat food? Because when you ask the question, why do we eat food, you realize you need energy and you need nutrition. What are the different ways can you get energy? The plants get energy from photosynthesis. There are bacteria that are growing in the radioactive nuclear waste. They are actually using the radiation as a source of energy, and they figured out how to protect their DNA from radiation. Now imagine if we can take those genetic material, use CRISPR to modify our cells, can we get energy from radiation? And the only reason I'm saying is that it's really about, by opening up the mind, by asking a different questions, you open up a problem to solution that you would have never thought about. And that is really about where the disruption happens.
And I think that's a great setup to just, even if you think about it, and then we layer that on top of chronic disease and preventative health versus sick care. Is the problem that we're facing just the fact that nobody's been ambitious or audacious enough to say, why do we just keep doing the same things the same way and expect different results?
Well, so the two problems here. One is, healthcare is the only industry where the person in the healthcare industry, they are happy when their customer is unhappy, and they become unhappy when the customer becomes happy. Think about that. They only make money when you and I are sick, and they stop making money when you and I are become healthy. So it's not they're bad people, their incentives are misaligned. So I'm not telling you that your doctor is a crook. Your doctor may be the good human being who really cares about your health, but they're inside the system that doesn't allow the doctor to take care of you. There is no billing code for actually helping you not be sick, right? There is no billing code for him to get paid when he says, hey, this person hasn't been sick for a year. Should I actually get credit for it? They say, well, there is no money you're going to get until you make sure that person actually gets sick. And if you find your patient to have a chronic disease, you now have a lifetime subscriber. You will charge them every single month. You're getting paid because he got a chronic disease. And God forbid he find a way to cure that. Now suddenly the credit card stopped working, right? That's a sad story of humanity, how we think of ourselves as in that way. Now, the reason is now the only person who does not want to be sick is the person who is sick. As you and I have all heard, the person who is sick only has one wish, and the person who is healthy has many wishes, right? So the problem is, if you and I don't want to be sick, what has to happen? You and I have to take control of our own health. We have to become the CEO of our own health. We have to start thinking about what is it that I need to learn about my body that is causing my body to have inflammation. Because at the end of the day, the chronic inflammation is the root cause of chronic diseases, right? And that's a fundamental problem we have to solve.
When you start thinking about this, you mentioned, in terms of your kind of 3 steps or 3 things to think about, why now, what that type of impact this is going to have. You're now 8 years into this. What was that for you to say, hey, this is how we figure out proactively, personalized what's happening in your body and set out a path to be able to stop that from happening?
So what a great question. So let me see, because a lot of the times when you give somebody a framework, they think it's a theoretical framework and can't apply to something real. So I'm going to actually show you how I applied this framework to the company that I started called Viome. So first question I asked myself was, I want to actually understand why people are developing chronic diseases, because if I can understand why what is changing in their human biology at a molecular level that is causing you to develop a chronic disease, we should be able to diagnose those diseases early, prevent them from happening, and God forbid, outright reverse them. And that was our mission. So first thing was, okay, so you're successful in solving that problem. Would it help 1 billion people? And the answer is 8 billion of us, because every one of us is going to suffer in our lifetime with these chronic diseases. So question check mark. We can really help 1 billion people if we succeed. Next thing was, why now? And the thing said, look, to solve this big problem of understanding chronic diseases, number one, you have to digitize the human body. Number two, you're going to get this massive amount of data. You have to be able to process that massive amount of data. And number three, there has to be an AI that can actually make sense of this massive amount of data. And then number four, obviously, is you have to find a way to collect and get all these people to actually do the things you want them to do so you can have this data that you want. Right? So in our case, we said, look, the cost of digitizing is coming down so fast that when we started 8 years ago, it used to be thousands of dollars. We thought, look, in 3 to 5 years, that cost will come down to $100. And guess what today? We are sitting here substantially under $100, right? Cost of processing at that time was $45. We thought, God, this is high, but it will come down to $10. And today you can have the massive amount of computing power and you spend no more than a couple of dollars on it. And we all knew that AI is actually on a path where in next couple of years is going to be so powerful, you can actually feed a whole bunch of data to it and really start making sense out of it. So we thought the time to start is now. Now, the next thing was the biggest, most important thing. Why me? We noticed that every single company in the industry was asking the same wrong question. First thing was they wanted to know about your genes, your DNA. And everyone thought if they can find out about my genes or my DNA, they'll be able to understand the problem. My first question as a non-expert was, does your DNA change when you gain 200 pounds? So you do my DNA test and I gain 200 pounds. Has my DNA changed? The answer is no. Then I become diabetic. Has my DNA changed? No. Now I got depression. Has my DNA changed? No. Then I get a heart disease. Has my DNA changed? No. Then I die. And 100 years after I die, you exhume my body and you do my DNA test. Guess what? It's identical. We can still look at the DNA of dinosaurs or DNA of mummies, right? They don't change. So if DNA can't even tell you you're dead or alive, how will it ever tell you are you healthier or sicker? So my first question was, wait a sec, what does change? What changes is gene expression or your RNA. Now, not knowing what RNA was, the first thing we say is, why the F don't measure the RNA then? And no one ever told me that, hey, this thing can't be done. We just simply said, great, we're going to just measure that RNA thing. Whatever that thing you're telling me changing, we're going to measure that one. Great. Now, the next thing was, so I said, look, what if I can measure that RNA thing? Would that solve the problem? People said, not quite. Now, what did I miss? Well, 99% of all the genes in our body don't come from our mom and dad. Where are they coming from? Well, they are these microbes, 100 trillion microbes living in our gut, living in our mouth, all over us, producing somewhere between 2 million to 20 million genes compared to 22,000 protein coding genes in the human. I'm thinking, holy shit, that's a big number. So my first thing was, does it actually matter? And when you don't know something, you go to Dr. Google. So I start tapping microbiome and cancer. Wow, gee, microbiome is involved in cancer. Microbiome and Parkinson's. Well, Parkinson's starts 15 years before you see a symptom in your gut. And I'm now looking at diabetes. I'm looking at heart disease. Everything seems to be connected to microbiome. So my first thing was, wow, if everyone believes this is a problem, there are 10 companies doing microbiome testing. Why is this problem not solved then? So I went back and said, what? There's got to be some fundamental issue. And I noticed that they all microbiome company were asking the same wrong question. They all are doing the same DNA analysis of the microbiome, and they can tell you what organisms you have in your gut, what organisms you have in your mouth. And my first thing was, why does the human body care what organisms are there? Because at the end of the day, if these organisms are like little tiny human beings, then depending on what environment they are in, they'll behave completely differently. So you take a person, put them in a good environment, good behavior, you put them in the bad environment, the bad behavior. What if the organisms do the same thing? Well, it turns out the same organism can be good or bad depending on the environment it finds life. So some people take probiotic and say, I'm taking Akkermansia, it's good. Well, guess what? Akkermansia can actually be good in one environment, and it can actually cause MS, multiple sclerosis, in other environment. So if you don't believe me, just Google Akkermansia and MS, and you'll see that it actually can do that. So there is no such thing as this organism is good or bad. It really depends on, is it doing good behavior or is it doing the bad behavior? So our thing was, wait a second, we're going to focus on understanding what these microbes are producing. We're going to look at how they interact with the human immune system, and we're going to completely holistically look at everything. And that is how we're going to solve that problem. Right. So then we say, okay, now we know what needs to be done. How am I going to do that? Turns out I went around now looking for how to solve the problem. I looked at the NASA things. I went to Stanford, MIT, I went to Duke. I went to every university. I went to Lawrence Berkeley, Lawrence Livermore. And finally, I was at Los Alamos National Lab. They were working on a biodefense project. They spent 10 years, multi-billion dollar developing this technology. And they were solving a problem that seemed completely different from what I was doing. They were trying to figure out, if there was a bioterrorism in our great country, how would we protect ourselves? So think about the problem they have to solve. They didn't care if there was a biological bomb. What they care about was, what is it that they produced, how it interacts with the human body, so they can create antidote for it. And I'm thinking, wait a sec, that's exactly the problem I need to understand for chronic diseases. It turns out they were doing the RNA testing of all the organism. They were doing RNA testing of all the human gene expression. Managed to get exclusive perpetual license, and the guy who was developing it is my chief science officer. Hired the head of IBM Watson Research to do all the AI for me. 8 years later, we have now analyzed 1 million samples, collected over 100 quadrillion biological data point. And here's what we do. So we built a test. It's called Viome Full Body Intelligence. Inside that, you open it up, nice magnetic lock. Inside that, there are 3 tests. You give us a spit of your saliva, touch of your stool, and 4 drops of your finger prick blood. Put them in a prepaid envelope and send it to us. 9 days later, you get the things back, everything that's happening in your body. We analyze not 100 biomarkers. A lot of companies give me the blood, 24 tubes of blood will give you 100 biomarkers. No, 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 sir. We analyze 100 million biomarkers. We look for 100 million biomarkers from your saliva, finger prick blood, and your stool. Then we tell you your biological age, your cognitive health, your oral health, your heart health, your immune health, your gut health. And if you want a nerdy stuff, I'll give you your uromectoxin production, your uric acid production, your putrescin production, your sulfide production. Then we tell you, hey, Joe, based on all the information, don't eat avocado right now because your uric acid production is too high, it's going to turn into a gout. Don't eat spinach or almonds right now because your oxalates are not being metabolized, you're going to end up getting a kidney stone. Or don't eat broccoli or cabbage because your sulfide production is very high and these foods are very high in sulfate, and here is what's going to end up causing inflammation. You're eating way too much protein. Make sure you take a digestive enzyme with your protein because your protein is being fermented and it's producing ammonia, is going to cause a problem. So we tell you every food you should eat. Here is why you should eat it, and here's a science paper for it. Here are the foods you should avoid, and here's why you should avoid it, and here's a science paper for it. Then we walk you through every nutrition that your body is lacking. So we say, hey, take 22 milligram of vitamin B, take 89 milligram of amylase, take 79 milligram of blueberry, and take 27 milligram of lycopene. And we walk you through every vitamin, mineral, food extracts, herbs, digestive enzyme, amino acid, and we custom formulate that nutrition for you and only you every month. There is no pre-made capsule, there is no pre-made formula. And that is shipped to you every month. We make the personalized probiotics for your gut. We give you the personalized oral lozenges for your mouth, and we personalize your toothpaste for morning and evening. That's completely different. So this is your toothpaste for morning, and this one is for your evening, that are made for your oral microbiome. And then if you follow this, we did a double-blinded placebo-controlled study that shows in 90 days, not some 9 years, not 1 year, in 90 days, people who followed, if they had IBS, which is constipation, diarrhea. So the people who had IBS, constipation, 64% of the people in 90 days became healthy compared to 10% on placebo. People who had depression or anxiety, 70% of the people became healthy compared to 28% on placebo. People who had diabetes, their A1C came down by 0.4 to pre-diabetic people, and they became healthy, right? In 90 days. And that's the beauty, is we were able to hyper-personalize the food and using the food as a medicine to help you stay healthy, and so you don't have to suffer through your healthcare system.
This episode of the Fitt Insider Podcast is brought to you by EGYM. EGYM makes some of the most innovative strength training machines on the market, but that's only one part of their integrated ecosystem. With connected fitness equipment, AI-powered gym software, and a comprehensive corporate wellness offering, it's forging the future of preventative health. Partnering with companies worldwide, EGYM's WellPass program improves employee health by expanding access to premier fitness and health facilities. Upgrading gym floors, EGYM equips every operator with smart equipment and AI tools to create hyper-personalized training plans for every exerciser. Putting it all together, they're transforming healthcare through exercise. Experience the power of EGYM's ecosystem at egym.com. I have a lot of questions, but a quick one just off that explanation, which was great. How frequently are we retesting to know should this be changing?
So we published a paper that shows that your body is reasonably stable for 6 months if you don't change significantly, take antibiotics or something. Your body is stable, but in 6 months it changes significantly, and then we recommend that you change after 6 months. So food that were bad for you may actually become good for you in 6 months. Even the supplement that you're taking that were good for you became harmful to you. Right? So there is no such thing as universal healthy food. So anytime when you hear someone says everyone should do this, unless your name is everyone, just don't do it. Seriously. If someone tells you everyone should take quercetin as supplement, everyone should take this supplement. If your name is not everyone, don't do it, because you don't know that supplement is actually helping you or harming you.
From there, this is a little off script, but just to your, maybe people not asking the right questions or not asking audition enough questions. If we can do this, why doesn't the government just mail this to everybody in the mail and say, off you go with improving all of these, chronic disease biomarkers that you have?
So think about it. What happens is, who will do that? Drug companies make money when you are sick. Pharmacies make money when you are sick. Your hospital makes money when you're sick. Your doctors get paid when they are sick. You are sick. No one by the way, your insurance company does not want you to be healthy, because under the President Obama, the Affordable Care says 85% of all the premium you collect must go back to the pool. That means if your people are healthy, your premium have to come down. They make less money. So what they want to do is to keep you sick and make you sicker so they can actually spend more money, so they can collect more money from you. Right? So no one in the system wants you to be healthy. So who does the government work for? These lobbyists. I mean, all that, when you go to a medical school, you know who funds them? Pharma companies. They never teach a doctor about nutrition. They teach them about how to prescribe a drug. Right? That is the system we live in. So there's no one. This is the first time you're seeing in our current administration, I'm not talking about politics, where FDA commissioner on TV, and this is something I would have never heard a FDA commissioner say. He says, we as a society we are spending way too much money on chronic diseases. And just like Hippocrates says, these chronic diseases actually are caused by your gut microbiome. We as a society should focus on food as nutrition and food as a first line of defense, not the drugs. This is FDA Commissioner Marty talking about it. He could have been talking about Viome here, right? But that is the part I'm talking about. This is the first time we're seeing a shift where people are saying nutrition and food lead with the lifestyle, because less than 10% of the contribution comes from your genes. Your DNA doesn't matter. It's less than 10% contribution. 90% comes from your lifestyle. So don't blame your ancestor. I have bad genes. No, sir, you're making bad choices.
Is the only solution here, because I think a lot of people are listening and they're nodding their head, sick care, the incentives are wrong. We've all experienced it. We know people, and some of us have all these conditions. Like, the solution, so to speak, is out there, but the systems that be do not want that to happen. Is it then fully incumbent upon individuals and companies like Viome to say, we have to circumvent all of this and like create this solution that hopefully it can get to a majority of people, because there's not going to be a government or a mass kind of population solution?
Think about it, right? I went to a doctor and I wanted to actually understand my body. And I say, I want to do a blood test for my hormones. I want to understand all the things that are happening in my body. My doctor says they can't do that. Why? Your insurance will not cover it. And I say, I will pay for it. And you know what my doctor says? I will not authorize it. And why is that? Because you don't have a disease. Now, once I was having an issue with my esophagus, and I thought I want to get the endoscopy done. So I went to my GI doctor. Actually, I know him. And I said, I want to get the endoscopy done. He said, your insurance company has denied it. I said, I'll pay for it. And he says, I will not do it. And I asked him why. And he says, I will get thrown out of the insurance network if I did, because if I find something that something is wrong, and the fact that insurance company had denied it, you're going to sue them. And the fact that I did the endoscopy without their authorization is actually gets me out of their network. So I'm not going to do it. Right? So think about that. I, as a customer, I'm not allowed to do the things that I want done anymore. And even though I'm willing to pay for it. And that's why the companies are now starting to say, look, I'll do all the blood tests for you. Just pay me the money and I can send you to Quest and do the blood test. You don't need to go through anything, right? You can now do everything you want to do sitting at home, understanding everything that's happening in the body. And this is where the AI comes in. This is the first time we as consumer are able to make sense of the same information that we had no idea. So doctor could talk to you in Latin. They will say you have these arteriosclerosis. I'm thinking, oh my God, the big word. All that says you have a heart disease, dude. You got a plaque in your arteries. So they don't talk to you in a language that you and I can understand. You say you have a cardiomyocytis, and that literally means is there's something wrong with your heart. Gee, do you know what it is? No, it's just something is inflamed in your heart. Why don't you just tell me that? Right. So my point is, this is what's changing is a consumerization of healthcare instead of healthcare by driven by these lobbying and interest where consumers are driving it. It happened in travel industry. Remember all the middlemen, the travel agents went away. Brokerage industry, remember, you could buy the stock that you want. It had to be you had to go through. So same thing will happen where consumers are going to say, look, I'm spending $1,000 a month on my goddamn insurance. Instead, I'm going to spend $200-300 a month getting my own data using AI, buying the supplements, getting the right food so that I don't be sick and I'm not going to spending $1,000 on insurance.
You kind of alluded to this, and we don't have to talk about like individual companies and things like that, but just the idea of, hey, now you can get 100 biomarker blood test at Quest. And, I've been fortunate enough to try a bunch of different ones of these, and not just the panels, but at-home tests and wearables and you name it. And I don't think I've really stuck with any of them. I've used them, I've gotten the results. It's then incumbent upon me to interpret them and figure out what the action plan is and then personalize things. And what is this just a interim step to where we're going in the consumeration of healthcare, that there's going to be a whole bunch of companies, some of them are going to make it, some of them aren't. There's going to be more kind of comprehensive, personalized solutions like you're talking about Viome. We do end to end and the supplements and the retesting and your toothpaste. Like, what stage, I guess, do you think we are at in this evolution?
So what's happening is, as the consumerization happens, a lot of companies come around and they're going to come and go. So these companies that are simply saying, hey, I don't need engineering department. I don't need AI. I don't even need to have any lab. I don't even need to do anything. I simply create a marketing company, send you to Quest, give 24 tubes of blood, pay me the money, and I'm going to upsell you you start with a small price, and then I'm going to upsell you. Do you want a cancer test? Do you want this test? Do you want this test? And by the time you're done, you've spent $2,000, right? And guess what? There's no support needed anymore. And person gets the result for the first time. Okay, intriguing. And now what? And you're done. Just like you just say, I'm just done with this shit, right? And by the way, what happens is when one company does this and they're making money, 100 companies pop up. So now we have probably, at least I am aware of at least 50 to 100 companies. They will all send you to Quest or LabCorp, and they all give you 100 biomarker. Every one of them, this 100 became the number, everyone. So we decided we're just not going to play that game. We are going to focus on the underlying science. So we run our own CLIA certified lab. We do our own RNA testing. We have 25 AI scientists who work for us to analyze the data. We have all the science team that does. The only thing we don't do is hire 40 marketing people, because we think that is if I have 40 marketing people, you are paying for it. And I don't want our test to cost so high. So think about your 3 tests, each one of them measuring, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million biomarkers. All 3 of them retails for $3.99. All unbiased RNA sequencing. Right. So, and then we integrate all the data. So you get looking at your mitochondria gene expression. We're looking at all the inflammatory marker, every single cytokine. So if you look at interleukin 1, the interleukin 2, the interleukin. So I'm looking at all of that stuff. Every human genes that are expressed in your blood, every single thing that's expressed in your stool. So every single microbial activity, all your epithelial cells in your mouth, all the inflammatory marker in your mouth, everything in your oral microbial activity. Because at the end of the day, top of the digestive tube, the bottom of the digestive tube, and everything around your digestive tube. We look at everything, and then we tell you what is happening, why it is happening, and what to do. So one example I can give you that really hits home. So if you have constipation, most doctors will tell you, here's what you should do. Take a laxative or whatever the thing is. We don't do that. We simply say, look, your constipation could be caused by high methane gas that slows down the motility of the gut. It could be because you have low sulfite. It could be a problem with serotonin. It could be a problem with bile acid. It could be a problem with butyrate. So unless we analyze everything and then we say, oh, Joe, your constipation is really being caused by sulfite gas, and I'm going to ask you to eat more broccoli because that's going to increase the sulfite gas and that's going to get rid of your constipation. So we look at what is happening, why it is happening, and then what to do about it. And then we show you the science paper of why we're recommending that.
At this point, you've packaged a lot of these things. You talked about, the oral, the stool, the blood, and then what to do about all those things. Early on in your framework, you talked about making these decisions based on where the technology is going, where we think it'll be, what's available. Is there this kind of continuous evolution within Viome where you're like, these are the next XYZ tests that we want to be able to do, we expect to do? And will it also be, when you think about what you're talking about, is like vertically integrating the diagnostics and then the kind of treatment plan based on that? Is it also, hey, we're going to do everything that we can do at home because that's the most convenient and maybe cost effective way to do it? Or is it, hey, we're going to have Viome clinics and you're going to be able to do these XYZ tests and scans and so forth?
So I think, fundamentally that you asked me a lot of questions, and let me see if I can remember them all. So first thing is, our goal is to really provide as much health insights to you as possible by looking at different ways of looking at the body, right? And we believe that in the future of health will be delivered at home, not at the hospital. And the medicines of the future are going to come from a farm, not a pharmacy. I mean, that's a fundamental belief, right? Then you start to say, okay, is there things you could, today when we do RNA, we are able to now map the gene expression to the gene. We can take all the gene expression and look at the network of path and say how much butyrate you're going to be producing, how much of, different molecules you're going to be producing. But we still have some of the proteins that may be produced other places, other organs that are not showing up in the transcript in the blood. So should we be doing the proteomics next, right? So the thing is, so the next thing we're going to say is, okay, there are things we are not able to see in the transcript. Can we now add the proteomics now, which is transcriptomics and the proteomics, to see what other proteins are being produced that can help us refine and modify the things that we want people to do? Right. So that will be the next set of things we do. So can we do the protein marker, say, for example, C-reactive protein? Can we do for TNF alpha? Can we look at your thyroid antibody to say, hey, your thyroid is hyperactive at this point? Right? But those are the kind of things we can do very, very cheap. And so we developed the technology that actually will be able to do them for 10 cents each, not $10 each, 10 cents each. And that's the kind of breakthrough we are looking for. Now, with all the information that we have now done for 1 million people and 100 quadrillion biological data point, guess what happens now? We actually can detect stage 1 oral cancer, stage 1 throat cancer. You can buy it from us directly, which is to detect with 95% specificity and 90% sensitivity. And today, the way you detect oral cancer is you go to a dentist, he rubs the finger on your gum and says, I don't feel your cancer. This is the 21st century where you're feeling my cancer instead of actually doing a spit and telling you have a cancer or not. We now, in the next 3 months, we're going to be launching a stage 1 pancreatic cancer. Stage 1 pancreatic cancer in the human history, the first time, 94% specificity, 84% sensitivity. And the reason it is really important to me, Joe, is the reason I started is because I lost my dad to stage 4 pancreatic cancer. There was no test and we didn't know he was sick. And we lost him in 3 months after he found out that he had a cancer. Now, that's a deadly cancer, and it's always detected stage 3 and 4. So this is the first time we'll be able to change that. 2 weeks ago, we announced we are working with the Scripps to actually validate our model for colon polyps 7 to 10 years before you develop a colon cancer. We are now able to detect Crohn and colitis, which is IBD, in the early stages. And that would be our goal, to constantly, remember, early detection so we can do something about it. So we're going to constantly do that. We developed a test for doctors now who care about preventative medicine. So concierge doctors, people who are preventative care, longevity medicine doctors, to say, here's a test that will give you the risk Are you moving towards developing a high blood pressure? So we look at 25 most common disease. I can tell you your score for a risk right now. And as you change your lifestyle, if it goes down, we tell you what has happened. Or if it goes up, we tell you, look, now you moved much closer to developing a disease, right? That is the kind of things we can fundamentally change the trajectory of how humanity is going to live by doing the things that have never been done before. And that's the kind of things. Simply doing the things that you could do before by doing these tests at Quest and LabCorp. If that was a solution, we would have solved this problem 25 years ago, because these companies have been doing it for 25 years. That problem is not. That is simply a way to make a short-term money, but that's not how you change healthcare.
You talked about partnering with maybe like concierge medicine and longevity doctors, and also the fact that you don't employ, maybe this massive marketing team in the same way that other companies do. When you think about reaching more people, is it integrating with traditional healthcare in a sense, that making Viome the tests and the platforms, that it's just now integrated into that process to improve everything that's already happening where people are?
I wish, because the current healthcare system goes back, and their first question is, I don't want it. So let me tell you the actual true story. I'm talking to the CEO of very large healthcare company. And I told them, we have a tech that can predict who is going to be sick in the next 6 months and their chance of developing a disease. And you know what the answer was? Don't care. Why? And you know what the answer was? There is no billing code for it. That's it. There is no billing code for it. That's why we don't want it. Tell me when the person is sick and then I can monetize it. Right? So point is, so healthcare system is not designed for that. That's the reason the membership model of concierge makes sense, because, hey, they're getting paid. They're saying, okay, now let me keep you healthy. Right? And that is what, so more and more consumers are now saying, hey, I'm going to become my own concierge doctors. Give me all the tools, give me all the insight, give me all the AI, so I can now do something about, and tell me what to do. And if there are things I need, can you make them for me and send it to me?
There's a kind of medical paternalism gatekeeping that happens, that Viome or XYZ at home testing company, oh, this is a wellness company, this isn't a medical company, this isn't a biotech company, we don't have that same regulation, we don't recognize them in that way. How much have you had to contend with that, to say, no, we are doing the things necessary to predict and anticipate and have early detection of disease?
But very good question. So what happens is, these healthcare system will try to minimize your importance by saying, these are, and so guess what we do? We publish peer-reviewed papers. So if you go to viome.com/publication, you'll see 24 plus publications. Every time we do something and say, look, you have a risk of developing an IBS, we publish the damn paper and so, look, this is how we do it, and it's all peer-reviewed. When we say, hey, these supplements or these food are going to improve it, we actually do a double-blinded placebo-controlled study and publish them. We publish all of our findings. Every time we say we will be able to detect this cancer, we publish them in iScience. When we say this is how we're going to calculate your biological age, we publish them in a peer-reviewed paper, right? So what we do is, sure, look, they're going to say what they're going to say, but my job is to make it so scientific that they can't throw stones at it. But if they want to, protect their business, sooner or later, consumers, we may think these people are dumb. With the internet and with AI now, people are pretty smart. They go and say, hey, can you analyze this paper for me and summarize it for me? People literally take the URL, post them in chat GPT and say, tell me what this paper says, and do you think it's credible? Right? So point is, today the people idea used to be that doctors know everything and the patient is dumb, is now a lot of the times a patient is a lot more smarter about their disease than the doctor is, because they've done all the research. And when you go to a doctor and say, but doctor, did you read the last research? It says this is what it's causing, this is what I should do. Doctor looks at it and says, I don't understand this, you should be reading that.
Maybe one more kind of loaded question, and then we'll get you out of here. Given that we've kind of checked off, I think 2 out of the 3 things from your original framework, the last one being, what does the path to helping 1 billion people look like?
So, the fact is, today we have already helped 1 million people already. And now we are expanding through multiple ways. I think you asked the question, how are we going to do that? Partly it is the other companies who are actually in the similar area. So people who are in the fitness area, right? So could we potentially partner with Aura Ring? Could we partner with Ultra Human? Right? Could we partner with other, right? So could we partner with Apple Watch? Could we partner with 8 Sleep that I use? So point is, or people who have other companies like Prenovo, can we partner with them? So idea is all the companies who are in the field of keeping people healthy, can we start to work together to actually provide a more comprehensive solution? So we work with a lot of biohacking companies. They say, look, you guys are already selling, so for example, sauna. You're selling the cold plunge. Hey, these are the same customer who want to care about their health. Can we now get this whole solution to them? Right. So that's really, and then we're going internationally. So we are now partnering with companies. We have a big international presence. So we can now take this Viome to, say, India. Then we can get to 1 billion people there, right? Can we take it to the other parts of the world? And that's how we're going to help 1 billion people live a better life.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see this shift happening, and great here today, hearing firsthand how you're thinking about and have been able to really make a shift in how people are thinking about preventative healthcare, and hopefully make that the status quo versus what it has been to this point. Unfortunately, like, sitting on the outside and people struggling to figure out what's actually happening to them. For folks who want to learn more, maybe get a test or just keep up with what's going on, is just the website, is there anywhere you would direct them, or anything else you want us to check out?
Please go to viome.com, V as in Victor, IOME.com, and do a test for yourself. And I think experience the magic of Viome. And all I can tell you is that if you're not happy, I'm not happy. So my goal is to make sure that you are healthy, you are happy, and your happiness and your health actually brings me joy.
Fantastic. Naveen, thanks so much for being here today. I really enjoyed it. Excited to share this conversation.
Thank you, Joe. Really appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you got value from the conversation, please consider subscribing and sharing the podcast with a friend or colleague. It's a massive help. And if you want more content like this, including news and insights on the latest industry developments, subscribe to the Fitt Insider newsletter at insider.fit.co. And one more thing, you can learn more about our recruiting and consulting services at fit.co. That's FITT.co. I'll see you here next week.